Chapter 15: Digital Environment Optimization. The soft glow of your computer screen illuminates your face in the pre-dawn darkness as you check email before the day officially begins. Throughout the hours that follow, you'll navigate between countless digital windows, work applications, communication platforms, social media feeds, news sites, each transition creating subtle shifts in your attention, mood, and nervous system activation. By evening, you may find yourself scrolling through your phone as a form of relaxation, yet feeling somehow more agitated rather than restored by this digital communion. This relationship with our digital environments represents one of the most significant yet least examined influences on contemporary psychological well-being. Unlike the physical spaces we inhabit, our digital environments follow us everywhere, creating what researchers describe as persistent connectivity that can either nourish or deplete our mental resources depending on how consciously we shape these invisible spaces that increasingly contain so much of our daily experience. Digital environment optimization involves far more than managing screen time or organizing computer files, though these elements certainly matter. It requires understanding how different digital interactions affect your nervous system, cognitive function, and emotional regulation, then implementing thoughtful boundaries and design choices that transform your relationship with technology from passive consumption to conscious collaboration. Whether you spend most of your day immersed in digital work environments, use technology primarily for communication and entertainment, or find yourself somewhere between these extremes, the principles of supportive digital environment creation remain consistent. Honor your biological rhythms in how you engage with screens, create organizational systems that support rather than fragment your attention, curate information flows that inspire rather than overwhelm, and establish temporal boundaries that preserve space for the non-digital aspects of psychological nourishment. This chapter guides you through practical strategies for transforming digital environments from sources of subtle stress into tools that actively support your psychological flourishing, recognizing that technology itself is neutral, while our relationship with it can become either a pathway to greater connection and creativity or a source of fragmentation and depletion. Screen management for psychological health. The screens that mediate so much of contemporary life create profound effects on your psychological state through multiple pathways that extend far beyond their obvious function as information delivery systems. Understanding these effects allows more conscious choices about when, how, and for what purposes you engage with digital displays that can either support or undermine your mental well-being. The neurological impact of screen interaction. Your nervous system responds to screen interaction through neurological processes that can create heightened arousal, attention fragmentation, and disrupted reward processing when digital engagement patterns overwhelm your brain's natural information processing capacities. Research in cognitive neuroscience reveals that excessive screen time can alter brain structure and function in ways similar to other behavioral addictions. Studies using functional MRI technology have documented changes in the prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for executive function, impulse control, and emotional regulation, among individuals with problematic internet use patterns. These changes correlate with difficulties in attention regulation, increased impulsivity, and reduced capacity for delayed gratification. The constant task switching that characterizes much digital interaction creates what cognitive scientists refer to as attention residue, lingering mental engagement with previous digital tasks that reduces cognitive resources available for current activities. When attention switches between digital tasks, part of your attention remains stuck on the previous task, reducing cognitive performance and increasing mental fatigue. Screen-based multitasking, while feeling efficient, actually creates significant cognitive costs through measurable decreases in task performance and increases in completion time when attention divides between multiple digital activities. Studies have found that students who multitask with digital devices while studying show reduced comprehension and require significantly more time to complete academic tasks compared to those who maintain focused attention. Blue light exposure from digital screens creates particular neurological challenges through its effects on circadian rhythm regulation. Research published in sleep medicine journals confirms that blue light exposure during evening hours suppresses melatonin production, delays sleep onset, and reduces sleep quality even when total sleep duration remains adequate. These sleep disruptions create cascading effects on mood regulation, cognitive performance, and stress resilience that extend far beyond immediate sleep quality. Understanding these neurological impacts doesn't require abandoning digital technology, but rather developing neurologically informed engagement, screen interaction patterns that work with, rather than against your brain's natural processing capacities and rhythmic needs. Strategic screen time architecture. Rather than simply limiting screen time, psychological health benefits from intentional screen time architecture, conscious structuring of digital engagement that aligns screen interaction with your biological rhythms, cognitive needs, and psychological intentions. Circadian-aligned screen scheduling recognizes that your nervous system responds differently to digital stimulation at different times of day, allowing strategic timing of screen activities to support rather than disrupt natural energy and attention cycles. Research in chronobiology suggests that morning screen exposure to blue-rich light can actually support circadian regulation and alertness, while evening exposure to the same wavelengths can disrupt sleep preparation. Implement what circadian researchers call digital dawn and dusk protocols that honor your body's natural light sensitivity patterns. Morning screen time can include exposure to blue-enriched displays that support alertness and circadian entrainment, while evening digital interaction should emphasize warmer color temperatures and reduced intensity that support natural melatonin production. Consider using applications or device settings that automatically adjust screen color temperature throughout the day, shifting from cooler, more stimulating light during daytime hours to warmer, less circadian disruptive light during evening hours. Many devices now include built-in night mode features, while third-party applications like Lux or built-in features like Apple's Night Shift provide more sophisticated circadian support. Attention restoration scheduling addresses the cognitive fatigue that accumulates from sustained digital focus by incorporating brief periods of non-digital engagement that allow depleted attention resources to replenish. Research demonstrates that even brief exposure to natural environments can restore directed attention capacity that digital tasks typically deplete. Integrate micro-restoration periods throughout digital work sessions. Brief walks outdoors between intense screen activities, moments of window gazing during natural transition points, or simple breathing exercises that redirect attention away from digital stimulation toward internal awareness. These restoration breaks prove particularly crucial during extended digital work sessions that might otherwise create cumulative attention fatigue. Task-appropriate device selection recognizes that different digital activities benefit from different technological interfaces that either support or hinder psychological engagement with various types of mental work. Research suggests that certain cognitive tasks perform better on larger screens with higher resolution, while others benefit from the focused attention that smaller devices can encourage through their inherent constraints. Match your digital tools to psychological task requirements, perhaps using larger displays for creative work that benefits from expanded visual workspace, smaller devices for focused reading that benefits from fewer distractions, and specific applications for different types of cognitive engagement that align digital interface design with mental task demands. Digital detox and restoration practices. While conscious digital engagement provides essential daily strategies, psychological health also benefits from periodic digital detox practices that create space for non-digital forms of restoration, creativity, and connection that technology cannot replicate regardless of how skillfully it's used. Temporal digital boundaries create designated periods when digital engagement ceases entirely, allowing your nervous system to experience the particular type of restoration that emerges only through disconnection from continuous connectivity. Research indicates that even brief periods of complete digital disconnection can reduce stress hormones, improve sleep quality, and enhance emotional regulation. Experiment with digital Sabbath practices that feel sustainable within your life circumstances. Perhaps one evening per week without any screen interaction, weekend mornings reserved for non-digital activities, or vacation periods that include significant screen-free time. These boundaries work best when they feel like conscious choices for restoration, rather than punitive restrictions on technology use. The key lies in replacement activities that provide genuine psychological nourishment, rather than simply creating digital voids that generate restlessness or boredom. Plan engaging non-digital alternatives. Nature immersion, creative projects, social activities, physical movement, reading physical books, or contemplative practices that provide positive engagement rather than mere absence of digital stimulation. Digital fasting protocols address the specific challenge of breaking automatic digital habits that may have developed unconsciously through repeated engagement patterns. Research on habit formation suggests that digital behaviors often become automatic responses to environmental cues, emotional states, or transitional moments that may not align with conscious intentions for technology use. Implement mindful digital re-engagement following detox periods. Rather than immediately returning to previous digital patterns, gradually reintroduce digital tools with conscious attention to which technologies genuinely serve your well-being versus those that create habitual engagement without meaningful benefit. Notice the quality of your attention, emotional state, and overall sense of well-being during digital detox periods compared to high engagement periods. These observations provide valuable information about your optimal digital engagement patterns, while highlighting specific technologies or usage patterns that may require modification for psychological health. Digital workspace organization for cognitive flow. The organization of your digital workspace, how you structure computer interfaces, file systems, and information flows, profoundly influences cognitive performance and psychological comfort through its effects on mental load, attention management, and the seamless translation of intentions into productive digital action. Cognitive architecture of digital interfaces. Your computer's interface design significantly affects cognitive load, the mental effort required to navigate digital environments and locate needed information or tools. Well-organized digital workspaces reduce this load, freeing mental resources for creative and productive activities, while poorly organized systems create ongoing cognitive taxation that accumulates into mental fatigue and reduced performance. Research in human-computer interaction demonstrates that interface complexity directly correlates with task completion time, error rates, and user stress levels. Studies on cognitive load theory reveal that digital interfaces requiring excessive working memory to navigate create extraneous cognitive load that reduces capacity for the primary mental tasks that technology is meant to support. Visual clutter on computer desktops and in digital workspaces creates ongoing low-level distraction from irrelevant visual elements that continuously capture small amounts of attention without providing functional value. Research confirms that visual clutter in both physical and digital environments reduces cognitive performance and increases stress levels through its effects on attention regulation. Implement visual hierarchy principles that organize your computer interface to support, rather than fragment attention. This involves creating clear distinctions between frequently used tools, maintaining consistent visual organization across different applications, and removing unnecessary visual elements that create distraction without providing functional benefit. File organization systems significantly influence cognitive efficiency through their effects on information retrieval success. Your ability to quickly locate needed digital files and resources when they're required for productive activities. Research indicates that logical, hierarchical organization systems reduce mental effort while supporting better task completion rates compared to arbitrary or inconsistent filing approaches. Develop file organization strategies that match your mental models of information relationships rather than imposed systems that require ongoing cognitive translation. Create folder hierarchies that feel intuitive based on how you actually think about and use different types of information. Use consistent naming conventions that support quick recognition and searching, and maintain organization systems through regular maintenance that prevents gradual decay into chaos. Digital tool configuration affects cognitive flow through the ease with which your mental intentions translate into effective action within software environments. Research suggests that software interfaces optimized for individual workflow patterns can significantly reduce task completion time while enhancing user satisfaction and reducing stress associated with technology use. Customize your primary software applications to support your specific work patterns. Configure keyboard shortcuts for frequently performed actions. Arrange interface elements to match your typical workflow sequences, and eliminate or hide features that create visual clutter without serving your particular use patterns. This customization transforms generic software into personalized tools that support rather than hinder your cognitive processes. Information flow management. The constant stream of digital information, emails, notifications, news feeds, social media updates, can create information overload that fragments attention while creating persistent low-level stress through the continuous demand for cognitive processing of potentially relevant but often unnecessary information. Notification architecture profoundly influences attention regulation through its effects on task interruption and cognitive task switching costs. Research demonstrates that it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully refocus attention after an interruption, meaning that frequent digital notifications can prevent deep cognitive engagement even when each individual interruption seems brief and minor. Implement strategic notification management that aligns digital interruptions with your attention needs, rather than allowing technology systems to determine when your attention should shift. Turn off non-essential notifications. Schedule specific times for checking email and messages, rather than responding to notifications throughout the day, and configure notification settings to interrupt only for truly urgent communications that require immediate attention. Create attention protection protocols during periods requiring sustained cognitive engagement. This might involve using focus modes that block distracting notifications, working offline when possible to eliminate internet-based interruptions, or using applications designed to support deep work by minimizing digital distractions. Information prioritization systems help manage the overwhelming volume of digital information by creating conscious filters that ensure important information receives appropriate attention while preventing less relevant information from creating cognitive overload. Research indicates that people who develop systematic approaches to information triage report lower stress levels and better task completion rates compared to those who attempt to process all available information equally. Develop personal information prioritization criteria that align with your actual values and responsibilities, rather than the artificial urgency that digital systems often create. This might involve designated times for different types of information consumption, clear criteria for what information requires immediate versus delayed attention, and systems for capturing potentially useful information without allowing it to interrupt current cognitive focus. Email and message management requires particular attention, because these communication channels often create false urgency that can disrupt cognitive flow unnecessarily. Implement batched communication processing, designated periods for reading and responding to digital communications rather than continuous reactive engagement throughout the day. Digital workspace ergonomics. Beyond organization and information management, digital workspace ergonomics addresses how the physical and visual aspects of screen-based work environments affect cognitive performance and psychological comfort during extended digital engagement. Display configuration significantly influences both visual comfort and cognitive efficiency through its effects on eye strain, neck positioning, and visual information processing. Research in occupational ergonomics demonstrates that optimal display positioning can reduce physical discomfort while improving task performance and reducing mental fatigue associated with extended computer use. Position your primary display to minimize neck strain while maximizing visual comfort. Screen top approximately at eye level, viewing distance of 20 to 26 inches for most tasks, and perpendicular positioning to windows to minimize glare while maintaining access to natural light for circadian support. Multiple display setups can enhance productivity for certain tasks, but require careful configuration to prevent visual and cognitive overwhelm. Lighting integration addresses the visual comfort challenges created when bright screens exist within broader lighting environments that may not complement digital display characteristics. Research indicates that balanced lighting, avoiding extreme contrasts between screen brightness and surrounding illumination, reduces eye strain while supporting sustained visual attention. Configure ambient lighting to complement rather than compete with screen displays. Indirect lighting that reduces harsh shadows and glare, adjustable task lighting that can be modified based on screen brightness and content, and natural light access that provides circadian benefits without creating visual comfort problems for screen-based tasks. Break scheduling addresses the cognitive and physical restoration needs that emerge during extended digital work sessions. Research consistently demonstrates that brief, regular breaks improve both cognitive performance and physical comfort compared to sustained work sessions, followed by longer but less frequent breaks. Implement micro-break protocols that provide restoration without losing cognitive momentum. Brief eye rest periods using the 20-20-20 rule, looking at something 20 feet away for 20 seconds every 20 minutes, postural changes and gentle stretching during natural task transitions, and brief attention diversions to non-screen activities that allow visual and cognitive restoration without requiring complete disengagement from productive activities. Social media environment curation. Social media platforms, while offering valuable opportunities for connection and information sharing, can significantly impact psychological well-being through their effects on mood, self-perception, social comparison, and attention regulation. Conscious curation of these digital social environments transforms them from potential sources of stress into tools that genuinely support connection and psychological flourishing. Understanding social media psychology. Social media platforms are designed to capture and maintain attention through interface features that trigger psychological responses, encouraging continued engagement, regardless of whether that engagement serves users' actual well-being or stated intentions. Research on digital media reveals how features like infinite scroll, variable reward schedules, and social approval metrics create intermittent reinforcement patterns similar to those found in gambling systems. These design elements can activate reward systems in ways that create compulsive engagement patterns that may not align with conscious intentions for technology use. Understanding these design elements allows more conscious engagement with social media platforms through awareness of how interface features are intended to influence behavior. This awareness doesn't require avoiding social media entirely, but rather engaging with greater consciousness about when, how, and why you choose to participate in these digital social environments. Social comparison represents one of the most significant psychological challenges of social media use through its effects on self-esteem, life satisfaction, and mental health. Research consistently demonstrates that passive social media consumption, scrolling through others' posts without active engagement, correlates with increased depression and anxiety symptoms, particularly among individuals prone to social comparison. Studies reveal that social media platforms amplify natural human tendencies toward social comparison by presenting carefully curated highlights of others' experiences without the context of daily struggles, setbacks, or ordinary moments that comprise most of lived experience. This asymmetric presentation can create unrealistic standards and reduced satisfaction with your own life circumstances. Dopamine regulation systems in your brain respond to social media interactions, likes, comments, shares, and notifications, in ways that can create dysregulation when engagement patterns overwhelm natural reward processing. Research indicates that excessive social media use can reduce sensitivity to natural pleasures while increasing craving for digital social rewards. Research on dopamine and digital technology suggests that conscious management of social media engagement can help maintain healthy reward system functioning while preserving the genuine connection benefits that these platforms can provide when used skillfully. Conscious content curation. Rather than passively consuming whatever content social media algorithms present, psychological well-being benefits from conscious curation that aligns your digital social environment with your values, interests, and mental health needs. Feed optimization involves actively shaping the content that appears in your social media feeds through conscious following, unfollowing, and engagement choices that train algorithmic systems to present content supporting rather than undermining your psychological well-being. Research indicates that users who actively curate their feeds report better mood and higher life satisfaction compared to those who accept algorithmic defaults. Regularly evaluate the accounts and content types that appear in your feeds based on their psychological effects rather than habit or social obligation. Unfollow accounts that consistently create negative emotional responses, comparison feelings, or content that doesn't align with your values, even when these accounts belong to people you know personally. Remember that unfollowing someone on social media doesn't reflect your feelings about them as a person, but rather your conscious choice about what content supports your mental well-being. Follow accounts that inspire, educate, or connect you with content aligned with your authentic interests and values. This might include accounts focusing on personal growth, creative inspiration, educational content in areas of genuine interest, or positive community content that reinforces rather than undermines your sense of connection and purpose. Engagement strategy affects both what content you see and how social media platforms affect your psychological state through the quality of interaction they facilitate. Research suggests that active engagement, commenting meaningfully, sharing content with personal reflection, and having genuine conversations creates better psychological outcomes than passive consumption of others' content. Develop engagement practices that feel authentic and constructive rather than compulsive or reactive. This might involve commenting only when you have something genuine to contribute, sharing content that adds value to others' experience rather than seeking attention or validation, and using social media for actual connection with people you care about rather than performance for broader audience approval. Time boundaries prevent social media engagement from expanding beyond conscious intentions while ensuring that digital social connection complements rather than replaces in-person social interaction and solitary restoration time that psychological health requires. Digital social wellness practices. Creating a psychologically healthy relationship with social media requires ongoing practices that maintain awareness of how these platforms affect your mental state while ensuring that digital social engagement serves rather than undermines your broader psychological well-being. Mindful engagement practices address the tendency for social media use to become automatic or compulsive through conscious attention to your psychological state before, during, and after social media sessions. Research indicates that mindful technology use can significantly improve the psychological outcomes of digital engagement while reducing problematic usage patterns. Before opening social media applications, pause briefly to check in with your current emotional state and set conscious intentions for your engagement. Ask yourself questions like, what do I hope to accomplish through this session? How am I feeling right now, and how might that affect what I see and how I respond? What would make this time on social media feel worthwhile rather than depleting? During social media engagement, maintain awareness of how different types of content affect your mood, energy level, and overall sense of well-being. Notice when you begin comparing yourself to others, when content creates anxiety or inadequacy feelings, or when engagement starts feeling compulsive rather than intentional. These awareness practices allow real-time course corrections that can prevent negative psychological effects. After social media sessions, reflect briefly on how the experience affected you overall. Did it enhance your sense of connection, provide valuable information, or contribute positively to your day? Or did it leave you feeling depleted, anxious, or disconnected from your own life and values? This reflection helps identify patterns that can guide future engagement choices. Digital Sabbath practices for social media create regular periods of disconnection from digital social platforms that allow space for in-person social connection, solitary restoration, and engagement with non-digital sources of meaning and purpose. Research consistently demonstrates that periodic breaks from social media improve mood, reduce anxiety, and enhance overall life satisfaction. Experiment with regular social media breaks that feel manageable within your social and professional circumstances. Perhaps 1 day per week without social media, morning hours reserved for non-digital activities before checking social platforms, or evening periods dedicated to in-person or phone conversations rather than digital social interaction. Use these break periods to engage in activities that provide genuine social connection, creative expression, or personal restoration that social media cannot replicate regardless of how skillfully it's used. This might include in-person time with friends and family, creative hobbies, physical activity, nature immersion, or contemplative practices that nourish psychological well-being through non-digital pathways. Creating psychological boundaries with technology. Perhaps the most crucial aspect of digital environment optimization involves establishing technological boundaries, conscious limits and structures that ensure technology serves your psychological well-being rather than undermining it through unconscious usage patterns that may develop gradually over time. Temporal boundaries for digital engagement. Time represents perhaps the most fundamental resource in your relationship with technology, and conscious temporal boundaries ensure that digital engagement enhances rather than depletes the time available for other activities essential to psychological health: relationships, creative pursuits, physical activity, rest, and contemplative practices that technology cannot replace. Digital sunset practices create conscious endpoints for daily technology engagement that support natural circadian rhythms while preserving evening hours for activities that prepare your nervous system for restorative sleep. Research in sleep medicine consistently demonstrates that blue light exposure and mentally stimulating content within 2 hours of bedtime can significantly impair sleep quality even when total sleep duration remains adequate. Establish personal device sunset times that align with your sleep schedule and circadian needs, perhaps stopping all screen use 1 to 2 hours before intended bedtime, using only warm-colored lighting and minimal digital engagement during evening hours, or creating evening routines that emphasize non-digital activities like reading physical books, gentle conversation, or relaxation practices. Design evening alternatives that feel genuinely engaging rather than creating a digital void that generates restlessness. This might include creative projects, social connection activities, physical books or audiobooks, journaling, meditation, gentle physical activity, or other pursuits that provide positive engagement while supporting rather than disrupting sleep preparation. Morning intention setting addresses the tendency for immediate digital engagement upon waking that can set reactive rather than intentional patterns for entire days. Research indicates that beginning days with immediate digital consumption, checking email, news, or social media, can increase stress hormones and reduce sense of personal agency compared to morning routines that begin with intentional, non-digital activities. Create morning routines that begin with conscious intention setting rather than digital reaction, perhaps starting days with brief meditation, journaling, physical movement, or simply quiet reflection before engaging with digital communications or information consumption. This practice establishes proactive rather than reactive psychological orientation that can influence your entire day's experience. Even brief morning periods of non-digital time, 15 to 30 minutes upon waking, can significantly affect your sense of agency, emotional regulation, and cognitive clarity throughout subsequent hours of digital engagement. Weekly rhythm creation establishes longer temporal boundaries that ensure adequate time for activities requiring sustained attention or periods of restoration that brief daily practices cannot provide. Research on rest and productivity indicates that sustained creative work, relationship development, and psychological restoration often require longer, uninterrupted periods than daily digital management can accommodate. Designate regular weekly periods for sustained non-digital engagement, perhaps weekend morning hours for creative projects, weekly nature immersion periods, extended social connection time that doesn't involve digital mediation, or longer contemplative practices that require sustained mental quiet, unavailable during digitally interrupted periods. Spatial boundaries for technological harmony. Physical space boundaries create environmental cues that support intended technology usage patterns while preserving spaces for non-digital activities that require different types of attention and presence. Device-free zones establish physical areas where technology doesn't intrude, creating sanctuary spaces that support activities requiring full presence, intimate connection, or mental restoration that digital devices can interrupt even when not actively used. Consider creating device-free zones in bedrooms to support optimal sleep hygiene, dining areas to encourage mindful eating and uninterrupted conversation, or specific areas designated for reading, meditation, or creative activities that benefit from complete freedom from digital distraction. These spatial boundaries work most effectively when they feel like conscious choices to create supportive environments rather than punitive restrictions on technology access. Frame device-free zones as gifts to yourself, spaces designed to support specific types of well-being that benefit from complete digital quiet. Charging station centralization prevents devices from becoming unconscious extensions of your presence throughout living spaces while creating intentional transition points between digital and non-digital time. Research indicates that the mere presence of smartphones can reduce cognitive performance and social connection quality even when devices remain unused, through attentional effects. Establish central charging locations outside of bedrooms and primary living areas where devices can rest during non-usage periods, rather than remaining constantly accessible. This creates physical friction that supports more intentional technology engagement while ensuring devices remain available when actually needed. Work-life digital separation addresses the challenge of maintaining psychological boundaries between professional and personal life when the same digital devices and platforms serve both functions. Research consistently demonstrates that inability to disconnect from work-related digital communications correlates with increased stress, reduced relationship satisfaction, and impaired psychological recovery. Create technological structures that support work-life separation, perhaps using different devices or accounts for professional versus personal digital activities, establishing specific hours when work-related digital communications remain unanswered, or using technological tools to automatically limit work-related digital access during personal time. Conscious technology relationship practices. Beyond specific boundaries, psychological health benefits from ongoing practices that maintain conscious awareness of how technology affects your well-being while ensuring that digital tools serve, rather than master your psychological needs and life intentions. Regular technology audits involve systematic evaluation of your digital tools and usage patterns to ensure they align with your conscious values and goals, rather than unconscious habits that may have developed without intention. Research indicates that people often underestimate their technology usage, while overestimating the benefits and underestimating the costs of various digital activities. Conduct periodic assessments of your technology relationships. Review screen time data to understand actual usage patterns. Evaluate which digital tools genuinely contribute to your well-being versus those that create habitual engagement without meaningful benefit. And consider whether current technology usage patterns align with your stated values and life priorities. Ask yourself reflective questions. If a friend used technology exactly as I do, what would I observe about their psychological state and life balance? Which digital tools genuinely enhance my relationships, creativity, productivity, or overall well-being? What would change in my life if I used technology more consciously? Values alignment practices ensure that technology usage serves your authentic priorities, rather than creating digital engagement that conflicts with your deeper intentions for how you want to spend your finite time and attention. Research suggests that people experience greater life satisfaction when their daily activities, including technology use, align with their core values and long-term goals. Regularly reflect on whether your technology usage patterns support or undermine your most important life values: relationships, creativity, health, personal growth, community contribution, or other priorities that give your life meaning and direction. When conflicts arise between digital habits and authentic values, use this awareness to guide conscious adjustments in technology engagement. Mindful upgrading addresses the tendency to automatically adopt new digital tools, platforms, or features without conscious consideration of their psychological effects or alignment with existing technology relationships that may already serve your needs adequately. Before adopting new digital tools or platforms, pause to consider: what genuine need would this serve that isn't already met? How might this addition affect my overall relationship with technology? What would I need to remove or modify to maintain healthy digital balance if I add this new element? Technology, like any powerful tool, amplifies human intentions and capabilities. When approached with consciousness and wisdom, digital environments can genuinely support psychological flourishing through enhanced communication, expanded learning opportunities, creative expression, and connection with communities of shared interest and purpose. When used unconsciously or excessively, these same tools can fragment attention, disrupt natural rhythms, and create artificial urgency that undermines the psychological peace and presence that life's deeper satisfactions require. The goal isn't to minimize technology use, but to optimize it, creating digital environments and usage patterns that genuinely serve your well-being while preserving adequate space for the non-digital aspects of human experience that remain irreplaceable regardless of technological advancement. Through conscious curation of your digital environment, you transform technology from potential master into conscious collaborator in creating a life of greater connection, creativity, and authentic flourishing.